This channel supports Extra Life in its efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. For more information about how to donate and join in their efforts, go to the link displayed here. Extra Life. Play games, heal kids. What up, everybody? This your boy Black Magus, and it's time to get the ball rolling and catch up on some different things that's gone on in the world with the coronavirus going on. By the way, everybody, hope you're out there safe, sound. For those who have loved ones, friends, acquaintances that are sick, prayers, and hopefully they'll recover. If you're sick yourself, I hope you recover, and just hope everybody's safe out there. It's wild. It's wild. Doing the things that I do, I see a lot of craziness, and yeah, be careful, y'all. Please listen. Please listen. This shit ain't no joke, and the way things are being handled, politically speaking, it just, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of politics, so Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race, a week and a half ago, at the time of this recording. Yes, I know I'm late, people, but I thought I'd give my 2 cents since I've had my rants about the political cycle and the presidential nomination, how it's been going through the Reason We're Born podcast and through my own personal videos. And I just wanted to finally give my post-mortem on the Bernie Sanders campaign. Look, I've always said that I thought that Bernie was... I like him. I think it's hard not to like Bernie Sanders unless you're just the total asshole. Seriously. But as a presidential candidate, as a politician, which he is, I know he says he's not a politician and he doesn't want to be thought of that way, or he doesn't believe in, the tradition of politics the way it is. Bernie's a politician, and he's a very poor one. The reason I say he's a poor one is because, look, I get it. I understand there are problems with the Democratic Party, problems with the Republican Party. There's a problem with every fucking political stance out there. Doesn't matter if you believe in socialism, capitalism, fascism, whatever isms that you want to pick. When it comes to a political stance, hey, there's always flaws. And the flaw isn't necessarily the concept of that political system itself, although I will definitely argue that fascism is the one that is, out of those three that I named, that's super flawed in a ways that it's literally saying, yo, I'm just gonna take your shit. But the flaw isn't necessarily the system, it's the people. And the type of people that you get to run that. And, I believe that's part of the basis of what Bernie was running for. But the thing is, you can't just lump everybody in this one group and then basically shit on them, which is what Bernie pretty much did. And by shitting on, the Democratic Party constantly, he shitted on himself, because he built this air that he's not the type of person that'll be able to work with others. That's a hard thing to get a lot of people to swallow. And it's not just the political powers to be, it's the people as well. Because everybody has a different outtake, everybody has a different level of what they believe in and what they don't believe in. For the most part, the Democratic Party is pretty much progressive. I know it sounds weird to say to a lot of Bernie supporters, because they don't believe that anything dealing with the Democratic National Committee or the Democratic Party, period, or anybody that's not in their made up clique of of Bernie supporters believe in true progressive you know views, but no, they do. Again, everybody has their different level, and everybody has a different approach on how they go about it, and it can be hard to come to a consensus. Yes, I definitely agree with that. But just saying that you're all pieces of shit, or just like basically saying that you're not gonna be bothered with them, and that you don't do things in certain ways, like that, like they do, you turn people off. You do. You really turn people off. And Bernie never presented himself as a like binding candidate. He like, as much as I hate to say it, part of Joe Biden's appeal was his call for unity and let's all work together to figure out something. His policies, no. Like, I don't really care for Joe Biden. God damn it, y'all. On the on the policy level, I don't know if he will necessarily. Uh, I never thought Joe Biden should have been the choice, but I understand where his appeal comes from because he can, and he has shown a willingness to figure a way to work with other people to push the ball forward. Where Bernie's rhetoric has always been built on, fuck the system, fuck everything that's existing now. We need to just basically get rid of everything. Life don't work like that. Life has never worked like that. And if you go back through the history of time, you know, since we've stopped shedding blood when trying to change everything, the best way to change things have been to find the common ground and push the ball forward. Bernie's never given the air that he's willing to find common ground and push the ball forward. And that's the crux of it. He refuses to play the game of I'm going to reach across the table and I'm going to, form alliances and make deals and stuff like that. No, it's an all or nothing thing. Again, world don't work like that. You can't just push over the apple cart and be like, all right, let's get a new batch of apples. Nah, bruh. Those apples take time to grow, to cultivate. You can't just blow everything up and then expect it to settle into what you want because you say you're going to do it. It's not rational thinking. It's not, it's sure, it sounds great. It is very, very romantic because if we can make these radical changes that he wanted, within the minimum amount of time, that'd be cool. Healthcare for all, raise minimum wage, all that stuff. Awesome. But it's kind of like you go back to ACA, Is it a perfect plan? No, never was a perfect plan. But it was better than what we had. And it's opened this platform to where we can have an actual real discussion now, to where people like Bernie Sanders can get on the stage and start to really, really, speak about healthcare being provided for all in a better way, showing that, hey, when the government tries to mandate things in this way, it can be useful to people. It can provide people more. Now we just need to go to the next step. And I think that's what you would have got with, had Trump not been elected, Hillary Clinton. There would have been a natural next step progression to that. It would have been adjusted in a better way. Because that's the thing. Sometimes you need to throw out the, like, craziest ideas to get settled to something that people accept, and then you keep doing that. It's kind of how the stimulus thing worked out, where, I know people don't think this makes sense, but when they kept saying we're going to put in all this, all these goals, and then the, like, Republicans were like, well, no, but we'll give you this. Well, what people got again, it's not perfect, but they weren't going to give you shit. Now you got something. And it's like, you got to kind of, like, figure out a way to manipulate, people into giving you what you want, because eventually that will happen. As the old saying used to be, slow motion is better than no motion. And I think as we go over within the next 10 years, if we start to, like, get progressive, like, people who have progressive agendas or progressive ideas in, not radical progressive ideas, but progressive ideas, things will improve. They will improve. But you got to work within the system. You got to work with people. It's just like none of us go to work or do things in our lives where we just are like, yo, it's either my way or the highway. No. We all make, like, deals. We all settle. We all play the game to an extent. And again, I get the romantic nature of Bernie, because he's like, I'm not going to play the game. But reality is, Bernie's played the game for, 40 years now? And when he chooses not to, he really doesn't do anything. Because you look over his career and there's no major impact. His biggest impact is throwing out his ideas recently and sparking this, like, we need a revolution. But even then, what was the impact? His voters didn't vote. His so-called voters, I should say. It had low turnout. So what does that say about his effectiveness as a leader? If I cannot get you to motivated enough to vote, then how am I going to be able to motivate people to want to listen to my agenda and vote on that, politically? He couldn't even get his own voters to turn out. And that's sad. And that's another thing that I find hilarious about all this, like, bitching and moaning about him not winning. Y'all didn't vote. Y'all really didn't fucking vote. Again, it played out kind of the way that I've always said that it kind of will, is that everybody loves the idea and the specter of this whole big revolution and all that, and everybody talks about it. But at the end of the day, nobody really does anything about it, because it's so easy to now, in the situation that we're in, where Bernie Sanders has not won, to say, well, it's just because everybody conspired against him. It's because you just didn't really want that. It's because they don't really care about progressive natures. It's the easy way to wash your hands of your responsibility as someone who says that you support these things, but didn't go out and actually take the action, because, it's very convenient. And that's sad, because it's like, yo, go vote. We've seen voter suppression, yes, but look at the people, the older people who went out and stood in lines in places and dealt with bullshit and crap in certain areas, places that closed like mad polls. They made their ways over and voted for people like Biden. Those people put in the effort. They know that, jobs won't be lost because you have to vote. It's a fucking right, and they can't deny you that right. They can't take your job because you're doing what you're supposed to do, as a citizen. Yeah. No. No. Like, seriously. You guys, you could have did this. It's just like I said in 2016. People were like, see, man, this is what happens. I'm like, yo, if Bernie really was the guy and you guys really, really felt that way, why didn't you write him in independently? You could do that. Again, it's your right as a voter to write in a candidate. It's on the list. Check it. Think I'm lying? Look it up.
But y'all ain't do it because he didn't get the nomination. Y'all sat on your hands and like, well, this is what you get. No, that's not what we get because again, we voted. We made the effort. So no, your lack of effort helped do this, and it's the same thing. The lack of real committed effort helped sink Bernie. That and his stance on fuck everybody, but like who doesn't feel the way I feel. Life don't work that way, especially in the political arena. You when you're in, you know, and that's the thing that we always complain about with Republicans. You can't just do for yourself because what happens when you just do for yourself or people like you end up in messes like we are now. That shit don't work. Your job as a politician, as a member of Congress, as, you know, a member of the government is to do what's best for the people, which means everybody. But this whole picking a side thing, like we're seeing now what happens when you truly pick just one side, things fall fucking apart. You know, as much as we don't like moderates, like yeah, I would prefer a much progressive person. I actually was going to vote for a more progressive person, but nobody wanted her because they weren't their beloved Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, who actually has plans, who actually has an agenda of how to make things work, working through the system and all that, and make, you know, more progressive leaps than anybody would have probably been able to. No, y'all shit on her, especially once she was like, yo, Bernie, I don't think what you're planning makes sense. As soon as she said that, oh, fuck her. You know, she's just hater. Oh, she just takes money from blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. So you buried her because she talked bad about your God. Because that's what it is. That's what it ended up kind of becoming, this whole Bernie Sanders thing. It's a fucking religion. It's a real fucking religion. They've deified this guy, and nothing can be said, whether it makes sense or not, if it doesn't end with, and it should be Bernie. Because Bernie said so. It's sad. It's fucking sad. You know, I like, look, I hope that he is able to continue to inspire people to be, you know, vigilant in attaining some of the ideas. But I hope his campaign teaches a lesson that, you know, that passion shouldn't be lost, and you should, you know, want those things, and you should push for them. But you also have to do what's necessary to attain those goals, even if it means that I have to kind of make, you know, sacrifices in some areas to get things going to where I want. Because again, none of us, you know, none of us, I don't think wants what we have now. I think we all want better for ourselves and for everyone. We just have to work together and make it happen and not be divisive. More importantly, don't be lazy and don't like fucking make excuses. Which I think is part of why he failed. Not because he made excuses, but his supporters. They just don't. Yeah. Nah. But, you know, if Bernie is able to run in 2024, hopefully he switches up a bit. Because once he would have got his foot in the door, I think Bernie would have been able to get a lot of what he wanted. Had he have like worked it in a different way, like got it, been less like fuck you and more like, all right, we have to like figure something out because I want what's best for the people. I think he would have been great if he had that type of attitude. If he had, oddly enough, an Obama type attitude. But it is what it is. Anyway, as always, you guys feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. This your boy Blak, making I'm out. Deuces.